You're taking.
All right, good evening. This is the February meeting of the Groseal Fire Commission. We have present here tonight Commissioners Kobolak, Kelsey, and myself. We have the Township Clerk, Ms. O'Connor, and we have the Fire Chief, John Camilleri. Commissioner Corneffel is excused, but we have a quorum now, so we can begin the meeting, and we will start with the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our first item are additions or deletions to the agenda. Do we have any? If not, I'll ask for approval of the agenda.
So moved. Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed. Okay, we'll look at the minutes from November, our last meeting, November 2022. I'll give you a minute to look them over, and then when you're ready, someone will make a motion, please.
Motion to approve the minutes of the November 2022
Support.
minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's approved. Okay, let's look at the expense report. John, what I would do is start with the January 2023. I think the most up-to-date, and then if anybody wants to go back and look at the prior to, that we can do that. But let's look at
Well, if we look at the revenue and expenditure report for the fire department, on the last page, you can see that our budgets, our expenditures and our revenues matched identically, that we had no expenditures greater than revenue, that the fire department is working within its dedicated millages. And as you know, we don't receive or take or obtain any money from the general fund. We work within what the voters of Groseal dedicate to the fire department. So that's been historically correct, and I'm happy to say that your fire department is working within the confines of the voters and the board.
I have a couple of questions. I noticed two items that all of a sudden appeared on the budget sheets in January. One is the uniform allowance, 22 and change. Can you explain what that is? I mean, I assume it's for uniforms, but it doesn't seem to be within our initial budget.
Well, we had a couple firefighters, retired firefighters passed away, and the firefighters have to appear for formal events, funerals, and the firefighters, their day uniform is a sweater and a pair of blue jeans. But when it comes to a funeral, there's a strict protocol that command requires all the firefighters to have badges. They have to have qualified EMT shirts and pants to appear for those ceremonies. They have to have ties. They have to have service shoes. So a lot of the firefighters were without those, and command took it upon ourselves to order them to go to Binetree and Priority One to order their uniforms for these ceremonies. And that's where I think you see the uptick in the uniforms.
Will this be something where they keep this formal wear for future use?
Oh, absolutely. They're all very disciplined and aware that this is a one-time buy, that the fire department is not going to be their revolving closet door, that they're required to keep these first-class ceremony uniforms for events in the future.
Are there other events where it's appropriate to wear these uniforms?
Not to the class level of formal ceremonies like a funeral, no. We have open house, and they do wear a day uniform, but not formal ceremony uniforms. They're not going to wear those. So it's a one-time buy for them, and they're required to keep them.
Okay, and then there's a $7,500 charge down near the bottom of that first page. Is it maintenance fire station number 2? I got that right? Yeah.
And that was for equipment?
Well, I don't know what it was. It showed maintenance fire station number 2.
Well, I would say that that's probably weather-related. The station had some garage doors that, they're very large bay doors. All the motors on the bay doors were original. And that building is now, over 20 years old. And we've been replacing the motors to the bay doors. In fact, some of the bay doors need to be replaced. If you come by the fire station, you will see that the bay doors are again 23 years old, and they're starting to rust. I actually had a conversation with one of the former chiefs just 2 weeks ago, how he suggested that the bay doors be changed in the last year. But I think Jan Dorr replaced one of the motors just last week. And of course, you can't have a fire station operating when the apparatus are stuck in the bays. So we've been doing the best we can with those doors. And in fact, in the last 5 years, I think there's been, I'll say a multitude of defects with the doors. So that's going to be a priority. And
On next year's
on next year's budget, yeah, absolutely.
So I guess what you're saying, and particularly the first item there, it's a one-time only. The second item was sort of an emergency kind of thing. But if I understand correctly, with these extra expenses, we're able to contain our entire expenses within our budget.
Oh, absolutely. The fire department has expenditures that come up, and they do not impact us staying within our lines with our dedicated budget. Not at all.
Thank you. I don't know if, does anybody else have any comment on the January? Okay. I would suggest, since this is more up to date, that we don't need to review the December and November ones. I looked it over, and it really the things we ought to be looking at were contained in the January report. So if that's okay with everybody, I'll ask for a motion to accept the expense report and approve it.
So moved. Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to the discussion items, and the first thing is Chief report. Chief?
Well, I can say the fire department has had a busy year. Ending the year, we've had 647 EMS calls. We've had 122 fire-related calls. Tracking the trend, between 2020 and 2022, we had 100 more calls. That is the trend. We attribute that to the aging, the demographics of our lovely island, and also to the fact that we still are dealing with COVID.
Yeah.
We still have a lot of COVID-related calls, and so we're dealing with that. So the fire department's been busy. In total, that's 769 calls for the year of 2022. And like I said, that's 100 more calls than 2020. In terms of membership, the fire department has made it a priority to pay particular attention to the number of firefighters. It is, in our opinion, the fire department is a platinum asset of the Grosio Township government. And we have if I was an actuary, I'd say we have a $60 million asset down the road. We have to protect it. While most fire departments during the Great Recession were responding to fires with 5 or 6 firefighters, I don't think they were responding with 6. I think they were responding with 5. Your fire department was responding to fires with anywhere between 15 and 20 firefighters. So the fire department has made it a priority to increase our rank and files. We have brought on 2 wonderful new members since the last week of December. They are doing an excellent job responding to calls. I think one is a retired police officer, and one is a 4th degree black belt. So these people bring a lot of quality to the fire department with their abilities. We interviewed a new member tonight about an hour ago, and we're looking forward to him joining the fire department. So in terms of the fire department, we believe that we are allocating our priority to the highest priority, and that is obtaining new members on the fire department.
I have a question for you.
Sure, Uta.
So I have a question, just, again, I'm sure there are people watching the meeting. What kind of people, what kind of qualifications, like, are we, do you have to already be an EMT? Age ranges, what kind of people are you looking for so that they know, the people watching can say, oh, I know somebody that might fit that profile?
Well, the one priority is they have to live on Groseal due to, being surrounded by water and bridges. You have to be able to make the calls, and that is a vulnerable aspect to becoming a firefighter. The second quality, I think, an individual is they got to have the time. We're running 769 calls a year. We do have a minimum requirement of calls that you have to appear on, and so you have to be able to make the calls. And that's not saying you can't be at work between 7 and 4 p.m. We have a firefighter who's been on the department for 40 plus years. She worked for the state of Michigan. She left the island at 7, got home at 4:30, and she's never been delinquent in 43 years. So, and when it comes to personal qualities, I would say compassion, you have to have dedication, and you have to be humble. You're going into people's homes, and you have to be able to relate to that individual with a sense of kindness and a sense of you want to help them. You can't give them the impression that this is a bother. You're here to help. So I think you have to have the ability to make the calls in terms of your time. You have to live on Groseal, and you got to have a good work ethic. You do have to get the education. That will take about 1.5 to 2 years. You'll be going to school for a good portion of your week, and so you have to have a good work ethic. Mm-hmm. But the payback to you is, you're really a part of the community. You can take pride in your community. You can appreciate the new relationships you make with the firefighters and the EMTs, and you can be part of another family. Mm-hmm. So I think the return on investment to yourself is living a better life.
Well, we're blessed on Groseal because our fire department and emergency response teams do an outstanding job. And if you look at the comparisons to other communities who have a paid department, we do very, very well. And our insurance proves that. So.
Absolutely. So a priority is increasing the ranks of the fire department. When I first came on the fire department, there were about 32 members responding to calls. Right now, since November of that last year, there was maybe 17. And that cannot exist. I don't like to say the calls are covered. Mm-hmm. I like to say that, we have to swell the membership because the fire department has a large fiduciary duty. And the township board and this commission allows the fire department to rather much manage itself. And I take that fiduciary duty extremely high. I do not, and I know the firefighters do too. So, but things we have done to get members on the fire department, we have put a flyer on social media, and that has been floating around in social media quite often. We got as creative. One of the firefighters sent a FOIA to the state of Michigan to elicit the names of every Groseal citizen who was a paramedic or EMT. We obtained their names and addresses,
That's what.
and we sent them a solicitation to join the fire department. That's never been done before.
What's the response to that?
Well, we've had a couple. Actually, I got a response from an individual that was already a firefighter in a downriver community, and unfortunately, he thought we were getting salaries. He was going to actually change fire department to fire department. I had to tell him, wait a minute, it doesn't work that way here. So he couldn't commit, and I think we got another solicitation. But that has never been done before, and I can tell you, here's the list of people. They all received this flyer from the fire department. And in addition to that, again, the flyer on social media, and I've seen our fire truck drive around the island with a banner up and down Macomb Street. That has happened multiple times. And so the flyer's been successful. The 2 members that came in December came from the flyer that we put out.
That's great.
So, and then and then the individual we interviewed tonight came from the social media flyer also. So
Good.
if we can continue that trend of getting 2 or 3 members every 6 or 8 months, we can get to a comfortable level in about 2 years. I also want to thank the township manager and the township board for approving a recommendation from the fire department that makes the fire department more attractive. Before, you received no compensation health care until after about 2 years, after you went through your classes and you were voted on. The command of the fire department thought that was not going to attract anybody new in this environment. So the recommendation to the township manager, to the board, was that the health care be given after you come out of EMT class, which is about 3 or 4 months, first 2 years. That increased our attractiveness, and it helped with retention. Because we have to remember, for every 10 new members, we'll probably lose 7 in the process. So I thank the township manager and the board, and I know the commission is aware of this, changing the compensation package in favor of attraction and retention. So we've done that to improve our standing with new members.
Is your budget for the next fiscal year going to provide for additional?
Yes. Another item the command considered was, at the end of December 2022, we had 2 members that were over 70. So in discussion with the township manager, the initiative was taken to request that they go on Medicare and not have the budget take the expense of their Blue Cross. So that was a savings of approximately $40,000. So I believe we can fund, and of course, we will have the millage money coming in November, I believe, and that will help our budget. So we've been creative last year to help us with the new expenditures of the healthcare of any new member we take on.
You're going to put together a budget. Is that something we will review at our March meeting?
That is something we will review in the March meeting. I had a discussion with Ann on that yesterday.
I just have a couple questions on the runs. I see 2 cardiac arrests on the same street but different dates. I was just sort of wondering whether they were the same one. One on 11.
Same question, Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
No,
didn't
no.
preempted your.
No, no, you didn't preempt. I was thinking the same thing.
I wonder if it's the same thing, number 1 and number 2. You know, we had another one on the 5th of December. I always ask when we have showing those things whether the patients survive, whether we're able to get there in time. If you look at the first couple, one is on 11/25 and the other one's on 12/2. They're both on the same street. I just wonder if it's the same person.
1125 EMS? Yes, on Meridian.
Yeah, and there's another one, 12/2 on the same street. I was just wondering if that was the same.
12-2?
Yeah.
No. Those
Different
would-
ones?
Those are 2 different calls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then we had another one on 12/5. I guess my question is, did any of the 3 survive? Were we able to get there on time?
You know,
That's tough to.
it's a tough call. I'm asked about calls I go on the next day, and I got to tell you, Jerry, I can't remember them. I go on so many calls, I can't tell you about cardiac arrests 2.5 months ago. I just don't remember.
The only reason I ask is, we have all this equipment and we've had some success.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, it would be nice if we can say, we had one last month and we got there on time and because of our new equipment and everything, we're able to save that person.
Well, you're primarily talking about what we call the thumper, right?
Yeah.
And that is a piece of equipment that's state of the art. I've seen videos where they put the Lucas, it's the Lucas, and the individual basically starts talking to the EMTs after they shut the machine off and he was in cardiac arrest. I've seen that on Facebook. So that Lucas performs CPR in an exceptional way. There's no pause in the compressions, okay, which gives the EMT the opportunity to pay attention to ventilation, okay? So ABC airway, we have to pay attention to the ventilation part just as much as you have to pay attention to the compression.
Maybe what you could do, sometime between now and the next meeting, check those ones to see if they didn't survive. Okay, that's one thing. If they did, it'd be nice to let the people of Grosse Ile know that, this is one more reason why we have such a great fire department. If you come off island, you'd never be able to get there in time. I think we've had a couple or 3 saves with the Lucas, and that's all. If you could check and see it, if one or more of them were successful, it'd be nice to report to the community.
I will let you know.
Okay. All right. Is there any other comments or question on the run reports? If not, we'll move on to the radio purchase.
Yes, the radio purchase, it's an initiative that I had presented to the fire department back in September. I experienced a gap, a very important gap in communication with our EMTs. You may know, you may realize that half of our EMTs do not have any radio communication with police dispatch, fire dispatch, or fire officers. There is no form of communication for them whatsoever unless it's a cell phone. The officers of the fire department have radios in their cars and on their person. EMTs responding to a scene, a very, very demanding scene, more and more responsibilities are placed on the EMTs in a very complicated medical medical scenarios. EMTs are placed in a position where they need quick and real-time communications and information sharing with command staff, other EMTs, the ambulance en route. These communications would quickly facilitate information sharing regarding patient assessment, patient symptoms, changes in patient condition. And the EMTs on scene need very specific information regarding time of arrival of fellow other EMTs and, most importantly, medical equipment and resources. The EMT without a radio is unable to assess any of those aspects and share information amongst their fellow EMTs when they don't have two-way communication. In addition, a radio is a safety piece of equipment. EMTs without radios are significantly hampered on scene when they do not have quick and real-time communication with police dispatch and fellow firefighters and fire dispatch. EMTs are unable to quickly and reliably broadcast information to scene threats and safety that they may encounter. And two-way communication will allow the EMT to receive information regarding scene safety and would be able to make quick and reliable communications to other EMTs, police dispatch, and fire dispatch. I experienced a call 2 weeks ago. They had 4 almost simultaneous calls, and EMTs were relegated to using WhatsApp to advise what scenes other EMTs should appear on. Well, we all know cellular tower service on Groseal is marginal on the east side of Groseal, and I experience a large gap on South Point. In today's world, that's unacceptable. And it's just the nature of Groseal. So it's the fire department's position that we have to provide our fellow EMTs with better, reliable, consistent communication. And the radios that we have been researching over the last 4 months, would provide us with the radios that we need. Now, these radios are, they would allow us to communicate using the same radios that we already have. So these are not radios that are singularly used just with the ones we purchase. They can be trunked with the radios that we already have. So it's the fire department's position that there is a very large need for these radios, and it's almost a necessity.
And you're talking about 12 radios?
12 radios. Yeah.
This may be a dumb question, but that's how I learn. Is it possible, for example, if they need these radios more specifically while they're on the scene, could one of the ambulances, for example, or the fire trucks, have 3 or 4 of them that are available for use for anybody on the scene instead of everybody having them? Have a lesser number of radios, but have them in the ambulance or the fire truck, so that when people get there, grab the phones. I don't know if that's...
Well, the way operations work at the fire department, we're responding from our homes.
Yeah.
Most of the EMTs that are on scene have come from their homes. And you want them to come from their home because the response time may only be a minute.
Yeah.
So there's the gap in communication. responding from your home at 2 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon is what best serves the citizen. Because that individual, when we talk about cardiac arrest, time is muscle death,
Yeah.
right? The heart muscle. And an EMT who only lives down the street from you doesn't have a radio. And he or she is responding to cardiac arrest. And so, wow. This is not a Band-Aid brigade. They need good radios. But, this has occurred because of the increase in calls. This is not to say we've seen this 10 years ago. This is something that, has amplified over the last 2-3 years. Our calls have just gone up, and therefore the sense of communication, real-time communication amongst all the EMTs has really been magnified. So the more calls, the more likely we're going to see these incidents. And we've ballooned in calls, and we have been.
What's
So
the total amount that's, you're projecting to get I see 12 radios.
35 plus.
612,
yes,
60?
yes. The other quote we received from Motorola was $54,270. So these radios are cheaper, definitely at $35,000 for 12 of them, but they will do the job, and they are rigid, they are rugged, and their profile will work perfectly for the fire department. And again, these radios can be truncated with the radios we already have, the Motorola's. So we'll be able to use all the radios for the fire department. So,
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
I appreciated what you were saying, like the police station model where the police are responding from the police building, public safety building. All the equipment is on site and in the vehicles. And so that on some level, it makes sense to think of that for the fire department. But as the chief says, and I don't think many of us realize that really our firefighters are deploying from their homes.
First responding.
And
to
only a small group are actually going to the station to get the vehicles, to do that. But everyone else is heading there straight from when they get that call. So I think that's a huge difference. And I'm really glad that you pointed that out because I myself wouldn't think about that. So I think that's why it really does make sense to have all our volunteer firefighters equipped with the two-way radios.
and to add that to your point, Uta, the firefighters are responding from their home with life-saving equipment.
Yeah.
They have the equipment in their cars to make an impact. And so real-time communication is extremely important when you have medical issues where time is of the essence. And, maybe there's another firefighter 30 seconds behind the first responder. They need to be communicating.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very important. And my experience with the 4 calls and seeing them communicate on WhatsApp is not new. It was something that I brought up with the fire department that we have to make this initiative when we had a call on the north end of the island and firefighters, again in that instance, were being allocated to a scene using cell phones. And so that can't happen anymore. The experience was something that definitely made me eye-open what's going on here. So that has to change.
All right.
Go
Well,
ahead, Kurt.
no, I was just going to bring a motion.
Are we getting this price because we're buying in bulk?
Actually, Jerry, that's a good question. We've been able to get the vendor to fix the price without the 8% increase for the year of 2023. I had asked the vendor if he could give us the 2022 price. He had informed me in an email that there will be a price increase, and I asked him if he could have his management, his his manager, keep the price at 2022? And the answer was yes. So,
How much time do we have?
you have till March, February 28th. February 28th.
Now, the reason I raised the question, if we're gonna be bringing on new people, and we believe that we need one for each, so each time we bring on a new firefighter, we will have to buy him or her a new radio at whatever the price is. And if, I hate to spend money we don't need right away, but if you anticipate we're going to get a couple more on this year, and we're going to be paying a higher price, does it make sense
To maybe order.
to order a couple more?
We have built into it a couple more. We did not order just the
The
minimum.
truth comes out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we built into this about 3 more.
Okay.
And,
You make a good politician.
well, we vet a lot of issues.
I resemble that.
You've got 3 lawyers on this commission. We know how to cross-examine.
Do we cheat him and how?
We vet all these issues all the time. And it's not Command's policy to hand out radios to new members who, probationary members.
When they become active.
Yeah, active and participate.
Right.
So it's going to be Command's discretion. Again, that fiduciary duty is very important, and it's not a blanket, we are ahead of the steps,
Okay.
I like to say.
Any more comment? If not, I'll entertain Kurt's motion.
I make a motion to recommend to the Township Board to approve the purchase of 12 Kentwood 6000 two-way radios from Digicom Global Inc. for the total cost of $35,612.60.
I support.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Chief, you have this ambulance purchase committee you just want to talk about. I guess you're not anticipating any action tonight, but you want to bring this on the agenda?
Just briefly, the fire department in 2016 created a capital aging and replacement equipment schedule. We have an ambulance that is approximately 15 years old, and it's scheduled to be replaced in 2023. We have reached out to vendors such as Braun, Lifeline, and Horton, and of course, we all know about the supply chain issues, and I received an email that a new ambulance from date of order could take up to 900 days. So on the short end, 400 days from one vendor up to 900 days from another vendor. So we created an ambulance committee amongst the firefighters, and good news is we reached out to another department, and Horton, a manufacturer, is going to bring us a demo to the fire department on February 9th for us to keep for 10 days. And hopefully, of course, we get a discount if we order a demo versus a spec ambulance. So we have that on the front burner of things we have to address eventually, and so that's on our front burner is an ambulance purchase. So
We don't know what the cost is going to be just yet.
the demo was $220,000. Our last ambulance we purchased 6 or 7 years ago was $199,000
It's not bad.
without a lot of the computerization in the ambulance. So,
It's not a bad price.
not a bad uptick in price, right?
So what are you recommending? A purchase committee, we're going to get this demo, and then we're going to have, it's going to be assessed by people who know what they're doing?
Yes, matter of fact, the fire marshal went out to Gibraltar, who has the exact same ambulance. He took photographs for us. He came back and reported what their firefighters thought of the demo that they purchased. And, we're going to kick the tires and see how we feel about it. But I'm confident that we could save a lot of money if we purchase this demo. Now, I'm not going to force feed it. I'm not going to recommend we buy something that doesn't
Right.
fit. However, we have a lot of good feedback.
Do we have it in the budget?
We have it in the budget, I'm sorry. We have a dedicated equipment budget and it's part of our capital equipment replacement schedule.
Just wanted to bring it out in public that.
Absolutely.
It's a part of our budget already.
There is the money already in the budget.
And the vehicle being replaced has its cycle,
Yeah,
so we need something.
the vehicle we have is due to be replaced this year.
Okay, so you're gonna put together a committee of people who know what they're doing, and do we have to run this through the township board?
You will when you decide to purchase it.
Okay.
Yes.
And I forgot to ask, going back to the last one, are the radio, the purchase of 35 grand, is that within our, or do we have to run that through the township board?
If it's, go ahead, Udo.
No,
If it's a single source supplier, I don't think we need to, but I will defer to whatever the commission
well,
and UTA decides.
confirm it with Derek.
Okay.
I think single source, we're able to make that determination here. I will certainly inform the board, but I don't think we need a board
But
approval.
it's part of the budget and,
Okay, well, why don't you check, just so we don't do anything stupid?
I will reach out tomorrow. And a note on the purchase for the radios, that is within the budget too. That would come, my opinion is that comes from the equipment
Yep.
millage money, and we already have that.
Okay, good.
Good.
Okay, we've already talked about member recruitment. I don't think we need anything more than that. As far as item number 6, I've advised a couple of the members here that my term as chair will end on March 31st, and I think it's appropriate that I step aside at this point. And I've served as chairman for I don't know how many years, but that I think one of us, someone new, could take over as chair. I've enjoyed serving as chair, but I think that we should rotate the position from time to time. And as I say, I can't remember how long I've served. So what I would like to do is we will defer any action on a chair. We'll as I say, my term ends March 31st. There's some stuff that I need to work with the township on getting cleaned up. And then we can make an election at our March meeting. Incidentally, I will not be present at the March meeting, so you guys can
Talk about you.
talk about me and slug it out to see who wants the job. This covetous...
Everybody who wants to take one step forward, right?
I'm taking a step back, but he's
Take
already.
a step backward. yeah.
Well, I was elected chair when I was out of town, so be careful
best way.
careful when you leave. So if that's all right with you all, we will defer the election of a new chair at the March meeting, and then I will the new chair will take over on April 1st, and I will finish out on March 31st. I certainly have enjoyed being the chair, and I think I got 4 more years or so from my present term as commissioner. I'll be glad to remain on the commission and certainly support the new chair. So with that, I think we have go to the I guess the action item we need are the meeting dates for the next fiscal year. You see that list there.
I move that we,
Those are the second Thursday of the month, which we've been
at 6 o'clock.
at 6 o'clock, which we've been used to.
I move
So,
we accept the meeting for next year.
Or,
all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Done.
Could I just make a comment about that?
Sure.
When we canceled our last meeting at pretty much the last moment, I did receive an email from a resident that asked why we haven't had a regular meeting And I just wanted to make sure the public understands, technically, our meetings are here to conduct business, and we didn't have any action items. It would really just have been, a meet and greet and say hello and give updates. So when the commission has, business to conduct, we will certainly have meetings, and they will follow this schedule. Every now and then, it's possible that there may need to be a special meeting, and it will be noticed appropriately to the public. And then there are going to be occasions when we either don't have a quorum or we don't have any business to conduct, at which case there might be a cancellation of a meeting. So nothing nefarious going on here, just the normal way of conducting commission and board business.
Thank you. I have time for public comment. I see we have some visitors here. Any comments? No, sir. No, sir? Okay, great.
Motion to adjourn. Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Done. Next meeting is March 9th. Thank you all.
One thing I